Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 7 of the PJ and Clay Experience. Thank you so much for downloading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for finding us. And thank you for sharing. Last week was our most listened to episode. I know we're only on episode 7, but the fact of the matter is the numbers went through the roof last week. And I just wanted to say thank you. You are all amazing. Keep sharing, keep subscribing, and hit those reviews. Let's see you rate these with 5 stars, and that's going to shoot us up the podcast charts because we're going to the top, baby.
Did we hit 1 million last week?
We were damn close.
Okay.
Damn nice. Close. Well, that other voice you hear is my good friend PJ at PJ and Clay. That's the podcast Twitter account. My good friend PJ is at 17 Pooj. That's POOJ. And my name, Clay Weeb, is at Captain Obvious, and that's obvious with a 5. Right now, let's bring in my good friend PJ.
I just want to say we're not getting enough feedback through those handles and things like that, and I really want to stress to you that if you don't like what you're hearing, it's your own damn fault for not telling us what to talk about.
I couldn't agree more, ladies and gentlemen. You can reach PJ at 17POOJ for all of your complaints.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, let's hit the timestamp and let's get this podcast rolling.
Yeah, May 6th today, 2021. So if you're a nerd like I am, then you enjoy May the 4th be with you. And so that's what happened this week. We also had Cinco de Mayo. And anyone that doesn't like tacos, I don't trust them.
Oh, there's definitely something wrong with you if you don't like tacos.
Right?
Tacos are like my favorite meal.
Yeah.
I could eat a taco for hours.
Absolutely. What else is happening this week? Lockdown restrictions in Alberta. We're not going to dwell on those, but it's a serious one. Golf courses, no more one-on-one training, big one, K to 12 now on online learning for the next 2 to 3 weeks, all of those kinds of things. So we're in full shutdown.
Restaurants are closing as of Sunday night. So all you can get from your restaurants will be takeout, as well as all indoor sporting events are closed. Outdoor sporting events will be restricted to 5 people, as well as all of your outdoor activities cannot have more than 5 people as well.
So I might be randomly seeing my sister-in-law at a park with our children.
Which is a good thing because the weather's finally getting nicer.
Am I a lawbreaker? Am I not abiding by the rules?
Is it more than 5 people?
Well, I'm not too worried about it, Clay, because the other thing that happened this week is I got vaccinated.
Hey,
there we go.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, got my AstraZeneca, and being like an old, worrisome man, I felt like I had symptoms, but I don't think I had any.
No, you didn't. How did you feel after?
Like a wind would go through my shirt, and I felt like I had the chills. I'm like, those are the chills. Those are the chills for sure.
You don't strike me as a stressful person when it comes to that kind of stuff. So what?
No, it was fine. It was fine. I felt fine. I did feel a little bit of a headache go on. I wasn't 100% for sure, but really minor. I was one of the lucky ones that didn't have a lot of symptoms, but I have had friends out for 48 hours, friends feeling symptoms after a week. And what's really cool about Alberta right now is now it's open to 12 and over now.
No, they're talking about 12 and over, and that's going to be coming soon. However, it's, I believe, 30 and over. So it's the millennial stage. All of the millennials can basically get their shots now. So actually, yesterday was the opening of that. And I saw a bunch of tweets rolling out how the millennials were crushing the website and actually broke it first thing in the morning, came back online, and people got in line. Lots of people this week will be getting their shots, all of the 30 and above. So that's a great sign that way that we're starting to move forward. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We're just one more speed bump we've got to hurdle here.
Any anti-vaxxers that are listening to this, once again, at 17POOJ. I honestly want to hear what you have to say, and I honestly love your feedback.
Please.
But I'm damn happy that I got my vaccination.
Yeah, me too. Mexico's that much closer, my friend. All right, let's get the podcast rolling. And here we go. Going to go through the list of things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the hood 40-something, where PJ and I talk about being a parent in our 40s, dealing with our children, dealing with life at this age. And then we're going to jump into the hospitality gene. And here we talk about the service industry, not just in the restaurant industry, but all industries, because service industry is everywhere. And then we're going to talk about the code, where we talk about sports, but mostly we talk about hockey, and a high percentage is usually Oilers. So you're going to have to bear with us if you're not an Oiler fan, because guess what? The playoffs are in 2 weeks, and it's going to get crazy right up in here.
And also the Oilers are in the playoffs.
The Oilers are in the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs. Don't know.
Alberta, you know you could cheer for now, right? Good stuff. Let's jump right into the hood 40-something and your health tip of the week from PJ.
Well, I did want to, I'm sorry to interrupt, Clay, but I wanted to add a little bit of a segment. And so I'm going to fly through what I like to call the reckoning. And the reckoning is what we did poorly or incorrectly last week. And it'll be quick, even though the list is long. And so I'm just going to go through this. So last week, our misinformation, and by the way, if you are coming to our podcast for fact, if science, you are on the wrong podcast, and I would suggest not listening anymore, because you're not going to get a lot of fact out of us.
We're not scientists. We do very little research, and I only play a doctor on TV.
Very scientific. Anyway, here we go. PJ, I said that I was severely obese last week, and that was just by the numbers, right? I said, hey, listen, I might qualify for Moderna or Pfizer because of it ends up that I was completely wrong with the numbers. I'm not severely obese, although I didn't get any feedback saying anything counter to that from my friends. Thank you for all your support, everyone. I was adamant that Trevor Lawrence went to the Jets, and he actually went to the Jags.
Oh, good. There's a J word, though.
Yeah, for sure. But I wouldn't have been able to fix that podcast because I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Clay, mostly you just try to sound smart, and then you're not, right? So you said you had an antidote, and then you went on to tell a story, which is actually an anecdote.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you didn't have an antidote for anything. You claimed that you really liked something, like a small child. I really, really like something.
I like a lot of things.
Yeah, like a 3-year-old. It was perfect. And then you said you irked something out, and I don't even want to get into what you meant there, but usually one ekes things out. So just a couple.
What if it was difficult and I had to irk it? No, that doesn't work.
I think we should irk on to the next segment here.
Absolutely, we will. So just so you know, my intelligence level is not very high. I sound smart, but so not even close. Okay, now, my friends, we're going to jump into the hood 40-something and PJ's health tip of the week.
Yeah, my health tip of the week comes off. I've been doing some running, and it's just treadmill running. I'm going to start running outside right away. But as this section says, 40-something, and I continue every run to get personal bests. And I'm running distances mostly of 7, 8, and 10 kilometers, and kicking butt. And so that isn't an ego thing. That's not a bragging thing, but it's just something that I want to make sure everyone knows, because most of our peer group is our age or younger or slightly older. But the fact of the matter is, it's never too late to push yourself, not to just participate, but to push yourself and to be successful in that fitness journey, diet journey, whatever you want to talk about. And so I'm certainly not at the pinnacle or the mountain of any of those things, but man, don't underestimate yourself. You can actually crush things. And so, I would even say I wasn't even a long distance runner at points during my hockey career and things like that. But, I'm doing this long distance thing. I feel that that's what's best for my body right now. And man, I'm fast and I'm quick,
Hold
much
on.
quicker
Whoa,
than I
whoa,
ever
hold,
was.
hold on a second.
Very fast and
You
very
think that
quick.
you're fast?
I'm very fast.
Okay, I just wanted to check that. Can we put that in the reckoning for next week, please?
I can put up my numbers. I mean, I'm pretty proud of them. But the point is not the number itself. It's the fact that if I said I was going to hit that number that I am hitting right now 2.5 months ago, I would have laughed at you. And I would have said, nah, I don't think that's true. And so the perseverance of our brains and our bodies, man, it'll surprise you, but it won't surprise you, and you'll never get there unless you get out and you push yourself. So that's my health tip of the week: is that don't underestimate yourself.
And I like that too. And I think that we need to always remember to celebrate those little victories, take those wins, but then move on and set a new goal and a new line to chase, right?
For sure.
Excellent. Love that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are runners or if you've always thought about running, think about what PJ just said and set those little goals and then challenge yourself to get to that goal and then raise that bar just a little bit each and every week. Excellent. Moving on to our next topic here in the hood, we're going to be talking about video game rationing with our children, especially with these lockdowns and this last year that's going on. There's a lot more screen time that's happening. And whether it's the video games on the iPad or the video games on your Switch or the Xbox or the PlayStation, PJ, tell me a little bit what you're thinking here.
Well, I think that if you are a parent of the 2020s or even the 2000 teens, like I have a 7-year-old, and Paxton is a genius. And to be honest with you, like unbelievable on the iPad. Lots of learning, lots of cognitive skills, lots of behavioral stuff going on there. And so, we try to police it as best we can as far as who he can connect with, what types of games they're watching, playing, the shows they're watching, all of that kind of stuff. So, we're pretty active in that. And I think it'd be a huge mistake if someone wasn't active in that. But he would play it for 10 hours a day if he was allowed. Absolutely. And so I just said that there's a lot of merits in iPads and in learning and all of that kind of stuff. But I think there's also, if you're not balancing that, it can be very detrimental and addictive and not physical activity. And, there's a bunch of negatives to it. So I wanted to just open up the conversation to some structuring around that. Like, it's tough. Sometimes and I think that a lot of parents sometimes feel guilty because, and I'll give you the best example. I pick him up from school. We come home from school. He'll have a snack. We'll chat about his day. And then I'll allow him like half an hour, 45 minutes on the iPad because I got stuff to do. It's not necessarily that he's asked for it and I'm going to put him on that, but I've got some stuff to do. I probably have to finish up some work, that kind of stuff. So, instead of feeling guilty, just knowing that you're controlling that time and you understand what that time is. I think it's important. What's your experience with that?
Well, and I think that you've hit on a couple things. The biggest thing is too much of a good thing is bad for you, right? And we can sprinkle that, whether it becomes alcohol or food or working out, right? There's so much stuff, but if you take it to that next level, it can be a detriment to your mind and your body and so many other factors. Video games obviously fall underneath that. The video game and kids, and when they're growing up, there's so many pros towards a child playing video games, right? Improving their manual dexterity is huge. This is a big thing as they're growing up, whether their eyes and their fingers are matching. They're using a controller to move a player, and just the skills that they are developing. It can also increase gray matter in your brain. And I'm reading this off of a site here. Gray matter is associated with muscle control, memories, perception, and spatial navigation, which I didn't know. I'm like, okay, good. Like we said, we're not scientists. I actually researched this one. So it's the development of the brain moving forward. These little things, when you're talking about muscle control, memory, perception, spatial navigation, little things like that are going to help them as they grow older. But you're right. If I laid my daughter down with an iPad, she would play a horse game for hours on end, or she would watch somebody play a horse game for hours on end. Also, I want to sprinkle something else in there, sitting down with them and playing, building up that camaraderie, playing side by side with your kids, having that one-on-one time, right? And you can set 30 minutes aside or an hour aside, how much you want, and sit down and build something in Minecraft or play something. There's a Cooking Mama is an amazing game on the Xbox and PlayStation. If you can pick that up, it's a co-op game where you're basically serving food. You've got to cook the food and serve the food, but you can only do half of it, and the other player has to do the other half of it. So you're constantly communicating with that person, going back and forth and helping your child figure these little things out. It's the puzzles. It's these little quizzes and tests that they throw out there that help develop the brain. Yes, too much of sitting there staring at the screen, not getting your exercise is a bad thing. It's stupid to think that it's not. However, it's ignorant to think that kids playing video games are bad, because the development that can happen is so huge and so big, especially when they're developing communication and social skills. And if you think that playing video games don't give you social skills, you look online nowadays and you see how much that they have to communicate with a person on the other end. They're developing these social skills, even though it's verbal, with another person. Do we want to see them face to face with other kids? 100% yes. But these are just other skills that they're developing, and they're having fun, and they don't even know that their brains are developing.
So what is your thoughts on, and I know we had a quick discussion about this, but it's a bit of old school versus new school. And at our age, it's kind of sometimes hard to get out of old school.
Of course.
You have to have an open mind, and you have to understand that the world is different. And in 25 years, when these guys are 30 years old, 40 years old, the world is going to look really different. But anyway, my simple question is, or our simple conversation was around the ability to write, and that's sure that can include printing, that can include cursive writing, and it includes that communication piece that you were talking about. But it's funny, when I watched my son communicate, so he plays a game called Roblox, and he plays it a lot with his cousin.
Yeah.
And so so they're when they're sending messages to each other, he's simply putting the text box up, hitting the microphone, saying what he wants to say, and then hitting send.
Yep.
There's no typing or anything like that. And he's a phenomenal reader. Yep. So recognizes words, and like in school he's killing it, and in school he's killing it. He's pretty good at writing and stuff like that. But when we even talk to teenagers these days, and people in their early 20s, there's the writing skills are you can tell there's been a deterioration of what's important and how you communicate. And I'm not saying it's worse or bad or any of that kind of stuff. It's different, so they don't learn that skill as much.
You're right.
I remember writing essays with a pen.
5 to 10 pages for a final exam. Hands going numb, and the words by the end, they're not readable at all. Right. And speaking on that, and it's just, as these kids grow and as technology grows faster than they are, and they're coming up with this speech and typing or writing, it's all getting shorthand now. So they're not even using full words when they're texting somebody. They're using the acronyms. Jade, to me the other day, she goes, "Dad, I've got some tea for you." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Tea?" She goes, "Yeah, I've got some gossip." Like there's not even a T in the word gossip. How can you make it so shorthanded? Can't you just say I've got some gossip? It makes no sense to me at all, but that's the way they're going. They're shortening everything. And that's the generation that's coming up because they're texting quicker or they need to have these conversations quicker. And it's the instant gratification that comes along with our children, and technology is giving them that instant gratification, right? Going back to your kid, though, talking about Paxton and verbalizing his text instead of actually typing it out, I want to challenge you to challenge Pax and say, hey, Pax, no problem you playing this game, but you're typing this out. We're going to turn the voice control off. So you have to text with your fingers and you've got to navigate that keyboard. How do you think that'll go over?
Yeah, but I think that he'll learn that in typing. Like I don't think there's where my issue is not that he does it.
Yeah.
My issue goes, do I have to analyze myself? Do I think that because the automatic reaction of the mid-40s guy is that the kids these days, they're not even writing. But they don't need to. See, they don't have to. Do we write lots anymore? We don't.
Well, I still write a bunch of notes by hand and
sure.
then I transfer it, right? And I guess that's a habit that I've grown with, and it's something that I can't get rid of. My mom, though, she won't text ever. She uses voice to text. Whenever she has to send a text, she hits the little microphone and talks to her phone and then sends the text.
No, I sound like I should be an insane asylum. Because I refuse to shorthand stuff, so I have the proper grammar and everything. So I literally have hyphens, periods, dots, new paragraph when I do, because I do the voice to text.
Yeah,
as well, and I look like I'm insane.
Okay, well, you are slightly insane, and I've got an anecdote. Anecdote. I have an anecdote.
I even typed it out and gave it to you.
Get bent, all right? Seriously, I've got a story.
Dumb.
Go. Dealing with the Gen Z and the millennials in the restaurant industry over the last 7 years that I have, when I'm texting these servers or bartenders, letting them know if they work or getting them to pick something up on their way to work or whatever the case is, having the interaction with them, always in my text, I'm having capitals, I'm having periods, I'm having correct spelt words, unless I have fat fingers and I mistype or I'm going too fast, right? If I'm reviewing it, everything is grammatically correct because that's the way that I learned in the English language growing up through schools. So it's ingrained in my head. Even when I'm writing it out freehand, I'm putting dots where there's supposed to be a period.
Right.
And I got a reply the other day, or not the other day, a couple of years ago from one of the servers, and they said, Clay, why are you mad at me? I'm like, what do you mean? I just sent you a message saying blah. It says, yeah, but you put a period at the end of the text. I'm like, yeah, because that's what you do when you're writing a sentence. They said, no, if you put a period at the end of a text, that means you're upset. If you don't put a period, that means everything's fine. Like, oh, okay. So I guess I need to go and start looking at the Urban Dictionary and finding out how to text the Gen Z and the millennials. But it's true. They have their own lingo, their own language, and their own abbreviations. And if we don't know what their world is, if we don't adapt to that, then they take it as we're upset with them, or we could be showing an emotion which we don't actually show. So we have to be careful, and we have to be adapting too. And PJ, even though we're 40 and we're the old man saying, get off my lawn, we have to adapt to these kids as much as they have to adapt to us. However, we're the intelligent ones. We're more mature and emotional, that we have to adapt before they do, because they don't know to adapt to the older generation, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I know we're angering a lot of mid-40s people who are not stuck, but I'm stuck in a lot of things, kind of thing. And so This is a really tough conversation when you talk about raising your kid and how that goes. But I would like to say that to anyone that, doesn't agree with how they're communicating, and you should learn how to write. And I agree, you need the fundamentals. You need the foundation of the English language in order to communicate the best. And so I think that's all important. And that comes from reading mostly. And so, I read with Paxton every single night.
Yep.
But I think that if you're talking about, well, they don't know how to communicate, they don't need to how to talk, that comes from the home.
Absolutely. It's all about parenting. It starts at the home. It ends at the home. I don't care what the teachers are doing in school. If you aren't doing something as a parent, then you are the first one on the list of people at fault. That's my personal opinion, and I'll stand by that.
Attaboy.
That's the hill I'm dying on today. Good stuff, PJ. Okay, we're going to stick with the video games. I know we went on a tangent there, but watch your children spending money on their games in apps on the iPad and on the console games. It's so easy nowadays for your kids to get into these games and hit a button without reading through it because they're trying to race on to the next thing. And all of a sudden you look on your credit card statement and you're being charged for it. Okay. This is happening nonstop, and you have to educate your children about what's going on. My daughter the other day texted me, Dad, I really want this game. It's $5. I will give you $5. Can I have it? Absolutely. We had a conversation. Great. What's the game? Amazing. Go ahead and buy it. I get the receipt coming up on my email from Apple, and it's not just $5. It's a $5 monthly subscription. So be very careful, because these big companies are making millions of dollars tricking our children into the subscription factor. Okay. So yes, $5 one time may be okay. I won't get a Starbucks tomorrow, but $5 a month adds up. Just as Netflix is already screwing us with this, as are all the other streaming stuff.
They did that when I bought a car.
Oh yeah, that's called a lease and a finance.
They charge me every fucking month.
But the 11-year-old doesn't get that, and they're not paying that. So just have the conversation and make sure you're actually reviewing what your kids are buying, because there's these little tricks that these companies are throwing in there, and they become subscriptions, and they're going to get their money every single month.
But what an opportunity, just to add to that, because one of the biggest complaints as parents sometimes, I wish I would have learned budgeting. I wish I would have learned how to, why are they teaching me about the algebra? They should have taught me how to do my taxes. Well, listen, this is one step. Quite young, you can start teaching them how their allowance and their lack of allowance will affect their game buying and things like that. We practice that with Paxton. He's not catching on. He's 7. He doesn't exactly know doesn't even know how to count money well yet, but he'll get there, and we're starting early with that.
And that's fine, right? Because you're talking about it, you're repeating it, and it's something you're carrying forward. And introducing it now, you're not going to give them a final exam and say, unless you ace this exam on how to budget, you're not getting that game. Right. You're just helping them through the process, but you're introducing it early enough that 3 years from now, when he's 10 or 15, he's going to have one hell of an idea how to do it. And he's going to be a lot further ahead than a lot of the kids out there. Excellent convo, my friend. Good stuff. We're going to move on to something that I was thinking about the other day, and I was watching someone perform. It was a young girl performing a guitar riff on whether it was one of the social media apps, doesn't really matter which one, but it just made me think how amazing and how talented this person was. And what skill, if I could have learned back in the day, would I have wanted to have now at this point in my life? And playing an instrument or singing instantly came to mind. I'm a terrible singer. There's no sense me even pretending or learning or trying. It's gross. Or even playing an instrument. Having that artistic talent to be able to do that is phenomenal. Yes, I could start learning, but I've got a couple things on the docket right now. So not a whole lot of downtime to pick up the guitar and start learning that.
You've got a low amount of gray matter, my friend. You don't worry about that.
There is no gray matter left. You and I killed those many years ago. The gray matter is gone. We got meat upon meat up there. The cells are barely alive.
So what I thought about this, there was two things that I thought about. I thought about one thing that I wish I was a lot better at, maybe picked up early, because that really is where talent is realized, is that early time in your life. So golf. I wish I had talent at golf. I wish I was a better golfer. And so that's my kind of, the obvious one that I kind of go to every time. I'm like, man, like everybody's better at me than golf. Like, how is that even possible that everybody is better than me?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, PJ's kind of a perfectionist. And when he first picked up golf back in the early 2000s, I remember how mad he got when he came off the course and came into work. He was livid. He was so pissed. He expected to go out there and shoot a 75 on this course when he was well over 100. And it was the funniest thing I ever seen in my life, because then our other friend told me how many times he blew a gasket on the course itself in his first time out.
Well, and listen, I've changed. I've totally changed my mental. I've been able to change it, and so I don't shoot a lot better than that now, and I'm calm.
You're more calm?
I'm enjoyable out there.
I bet you are. How many clubs have you broken in the last year?
None. I swear to you, I'm good. Anyway, my second talent that I want to talk about is, again, I don't know if it's a talent or anything, but understanding of tech.
Okay.
And not just understanding or being better at resolving tech issues and IT things, but building tech. I don't get it. I don't get what's in the microchip, and that frustrates the hell out of me.
So you actually want to build the physical portion of a computer, but
like all of them have brains, and that amazes me. But I don't even have I don't have an understanding of that. And I think that would be a really cool thing to have understood or understand now, even to some kind of degree.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
piggybacking on what you just said, talking about tech. You would like to see or know how to build the actual blood and guts of a computer. Whereas I can build a website. I know the general idea of how to build a website, but I would love to know how to code, going in there and typing the zeros and the ones and the backslashes and the colons and all this stuff. And then after I've typed out 10,000 characters, I hit enter, and all of a sudden I've got a web page. It's like, how cool is that? To know the background information, the C++ and all these different coding and things to that effect. I think that would be a very cool thing to do. And when I've seen people do that, it blows my mind what they type into a computer, hit enter, and all of a sudden you've got this moving, amazing thing, right? That would be very cool to have as well. What a great talent. Awesome stuff. Now we're going to move on to the hospitality gene, talking about service industry, not just in restaurants, but in all industries. And we're going to start off with how to challenge one of your senior managers, to how to challenge them to be better, to challenge themselves and not get stagnant, and to keep growing. As a business owner or as a general manager, looking at your staff that you have, and the biggest piece to any of your businesses is going to be the people that you hire. You're going to hire good people, surround yourself with good people that can learn and push you as well as push the rest of your partners. But how do you get somebody that's been in the industry for so long to keep challenging and keep growing? And I think, PJ, before when we were talking about this, you said the biggest word that popped into my head and went boom, light. And it's relationship. And building that relationship and knowing the triggers of the people that you have employed, and being able to find their why, as PJ likes to say all the time, because that's a super powerful question. What is your why for this? Like, what's driving you? What's making you passionate? What's getting you from point A to point B with that smile on your face and coming back every single day with that big smile and enjoying and loving what you do? And I think that's the biggest thing. When you build that relationship with your upper management team and even the rest of the people that you hire, all of your partners, and doesn't matter what level they are, is building relationships, because then they have trust in you as well. And then your conversations get a little more intimate. And then you can find out things that you can use to help push them to the next level, or help find out what's motivating them and help challenging them more. Because a lot of good people out there need that challenge. They need that something. They need that fence to scale. And unless we put it in front of them, they could just be stumbling through life, through work, and through anything, just going one speed, right?
Yeah, all of that is, relationships. And so when you get into that, and you said trust, gain that person's trust. A senior manager, when they're looking to promote someone, they're looking for you to be ahead of the game from their teaching, right? They want to see that you have taken what they are saying and utilized and executed that on the floor or in the financial scheme, or they want to see how you take that information. And they're not going to give you all the answers, because they want you to see if you have a cognitive, reasoning, solution based problem solving process. Because when you're looking for someone that's a senior manager, it's not XYZ. It's all I have to use my process to get to the answer. No one's giving you the answer and then you go, oh, here's the answer, and that's how I'm going to run a successful business. It's, hey, I want to do this, but I have a piece of this, a little of this. And so what do you think about that? And as a senior manager, you got to go, okay, well, my process that I've developed with experience, with relationships, is going to get me to that answer. And that's going to get me to a successful business.
Absolutely.
And so I think that when we're talking about, how do you talk to management, whether they're a senior or a junior management, and that relationship piece, I just think it's so important to listen and understand how are you going to fail with that information, and how are you going to succeed the next time with that information. So I think that, it's bang on, though, that you're talking about, when I look at my best managers that I talk to every day, I really like the managers that drive their own development, but they ask questions.
Yeah.
They don't think they have all the answers, or need to create this crazy cockamamie scheme and go, what do you think of this? I totally thought out of the box, and we're going to not have a rooftop patio. We're going to have an underground patio. What do you think?
And then we'll get the sun shipped in there.
And it's like, man, I just love the energy, and I love but I can't give the business to this person. Right. And so I just think that the other thing is don't assume your manager knows what you want. Right. And so there's a balancing act, right? If you're too eager to and just, again, force things, you're not going to be able to show how awesome you are and how level-headed and balanced you are when you're like, but I want a promotion. I need a promotion. How about my pay? But the way I talk to my boss, and I don't know if he's listening to this podcast. I think eventually he will. But
he'll be part of the million.
I mention once every 6 to 8 months that I want his job. Right. And it comes up in conversation. I'm just like, how's it going with you? What are you doing? How can I help you do that instead of what you're doing that I want to do? Right, kind of thing. But it's all in a conversation. It's once every 6 to 8 months. It's not this whole pressure thing where they feel this huge, well, I hope he doesn't feel this huge pressure from me going, hey, you need to move on so I can move up.
Yep. I think the biggest thing too, in talking about that as well, if you want to move up as a manager, you need to be training somebody every single day to take over your position. You need to show and take initiative that you're training someone to take over your spot so that you can move up, right?
Well, absolutely. That goes to the classic cliche: hire someone better than you.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for people to do because everyone has an ego.
Oh, big time.
And everyone's like, well, I'm not going to hire someone that's going to get promoted before me. That's insane.
But also that's going to drive you to be better at the same time.
Absolutely. And you have someone that's better than you doing better things, and your senior manager, if they're smart and if you want to work for them and have their job, is going to see that in that context. Mm-hmm. Wow, Clay, you hired this great person, you trained this great person. That is amazing. It's time for you to move up now. Yep, right?
100%.
Doesn't always work. And again, it doesn't feel, it's counterintuitive to hire someone better than yourself, but I'm always looking for people better than myself.
Well, and that's just it. And that's the motivation there too, is it not? And if you're in that position, you're always looking to better yourself.
Sure.
So, okay, so let's move on now. I saw a great quote on Twitter and I wanted to get your take on it. So let me read this out to you and then I'll ask you your feelings on it. Leadership. Yeah, good. Leadership and management are not always synonymous. You can be a good leader, but an awful manager. And you can be a good manager, but an awful leader. The main difference, if you inspire others, you are a leader. What say you?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a huge, passionate piece for me. I really believe in this. And I really want to make sure that, number one, people know that businesses need both great management and great leadership.
And you can be both. Not everybody is, but you can be both. Keep going.
Absolutely. But a business needs at least segments of great management and great leadership, no matter if it's from one person, from both people. And so I don't think there is one is better than the other. And so when I first read that kind of thing, I think my example or my analogy, which is also from business, is everyone wants to be the light bulb person. Everyone wants to be the idea person, right? And so fairly early in my career, I realized, hey, I've got some great ideas. Sometimes I have some decent light bulbs, but I'm not the light bulb person. I am actually the person that builds the box around the light bulb, protects the light bulb from itself, protects the light bulb because it's fragile. And so I pride myself on building systems and things around the light bulb that make it work, right? Providing it power, all of that kind of stuff. So, but a lot of people go, no, I want to be I need to be the light bulb person. And that's their failing. They don't realize, hey, there's more out there that is available for everyone that is not the actual light bulb.
Yep.
And so when we talk about leadership, everyone wants to be a leader. And and that's great. Not everyone's going to be a great leader, but now we'll get into the difference between leadership and management a little bit. And so the only thing that I have an issue with, Clay, when you talk about leadership, or not with you, just the quote itself,
right,
is the inspiration piece. I think the inspiration piece is a great byproduct of great leadership. And certainly great leadership can inspire people. But when leaders take on that responsibility to inspire and motivate people, it's a very dangerous world to live in, because everyone's inspiration and motivation comes from an individual place. And to be that all-encompassing leader that thrives off inspiring people can wear you down, can become tiresome, and you can feel like a failure very quickly if you think that inspiring people is one of your key, your KPIs, one of the things that you lean on as far as, oh, I'm successful because I inspire people. That's really dangerous. I really do feel that, and I don't think that's an equation for success and
And
sustainability.
100%. And I think that when you're looking at it, being the good leader that you are, and like I said previously, there's a very small niche set of people out there that can be great managers and great leaders. It's possible, it's out there. Dabbling on one side and the other is a great way to balance yourself out. A lot of the great managers out there are very system orientated, very, okay, we're going to do it this way. Here's the map. This is how we're going to get here. And here are the numbers that's going to back it up. And this is how we're going down this path. The leaders, on the other hand, are saying, okay, great. Now I've got this map. Follow me. Let's walk the way I walk, because we're going to get you down that path. And we're going to do it with a smile on our face. And you've got your raw people, and then you got your system people, right? You've got your head coach, and then you've got your offensive coordinator that's sending out the play to the quarterback. You've kind of got those both situations, and they play off each other. You definitely need both aspects, right? And it's a huge thing, and you need to know. And it's not about inspiring. And that, you're right about the end of this quote, being a leader. If you fall down that path and think that you can inspire, and that's your only win, that's the only thing you bring to the table is inspiring, and then all of a sudden maybe you're not inspiring that person or that group of people, and then what else do you bring to the table if you can't inspire?
Or not every day, right?
365 days a year. It's a long time.
I think that one of the things that leaders do, and again, I could go on forever on this subject because I've studied it, and I believe that businesses need both, but leaders empower their people, and they provide a vision, and they let their people decide how they're going to get there. And that's going to come with failures, but it's really important for a leader to give the power to the people.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that you brought this up too, when we were talking previously about how to challenge your senior manager, and it's about mentoring, right? And it's about saying, okay, I want you to get from A to B, but I want you to figure out how you're going to get from A to B. Tell me what you plan on doing to get there, and let them figure it out, right? Because you want to empower them the possibilities to make decisions and potentially fail and succeed getting to that point, because then they're developing a challenge. They've got, okay, ideas, and they're going to figure out how to get there, who to talk to, who to motivate themselves, who to delegate to, and go.
Right. And and a couple more things on that, and exactly to that point, leadership takes time, and sometimes businesses don't have time. Right. They need to get a product out. They need to get a process out. And so leadership does take time, and sometimes you have parameters around that time. The other thing that I think leadership has is management often has to produce in a certain amount of time, in a certain amount of parameters, and it's guided by the organization and what the goal is. And leadership, and so when there's something that comes up that's unexpected, management, the process gets stuck.
Right.
Leadership is the ability to deal with change and unexpected change. And I think that that's a really key process. Is I don't have time as a senior manager to deal with all the problems that might come up in a business. I need my managers to do that.
Yeah.
And so leadership can teach an ideology instead of a process. But ideology is a really tough thing to wrap our heads around, because it has a multitude of different situations. And as long as you have the right ideology, you can deal with any situation, but it's tough to teach. But your leadership can show people quicker and better how to deal with that and run your business better.
Absolutely. Very well said. I like it. And especially when I saw this quote, and I wanted to send it to you because I knew that you would have a lot to say about it, because when it comes to this type of stuff, like you said, you've done a lot of research and a lot of reading, but you've also been out there in the real world, and you've tried and you failed, and you've tried and you succeeded. So it's not just, talking out of your ass. This is something that's tried and true, and you've been down that path. So I love it. Very well done, PJ. Thank you for that. Good stuff. So anything you want to add really quick before we move on to the next topic here?
No, I mean, hey, listen, when you say I failed and I succeeded, I failed a lot more than I succeeded. I can tell you that much.
You know what? But isn't that classic hitting in baseball? If you're hitting 250, you're a great hitter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're going to move on to this section I like to call the history of, and we have done a few over the last 6 episodes. Episode number 7, because Cinco de Mayo was 2 days ago yesterday. Wow. When you hear this, it'll be 2 days ago. Cinco de Mayo is something that we are celebrating all across North America mainly, okay? What I've learned as we are celebrating this event, I wanted to dig deeper because I heard a little bit of history. So I went into it a little bit more. If you don't know, Cinco de Mayo is the 5th of May. It's a holiday that's celebrated on this date because of a time back in 1862 on May the 5th. It was the Mexican army's victory over France at the Battle of Puebla during the Franco-Mexican War. Now, the interesting fact about this is a lot of people in Mexico don't actually celebrate this day as much as the rest of the states and Canada does, which is very interesting. Okay.
Why, Clay? Why?
There, ask me more. Basically, their main holiday is their Independence Day, which a lot of people think is this day. However, their Independence Day doesn't actually fall until, as I pull this up, I don't have it, and I'm not going to leave any dead space. So when I find it later, I'll tell you. But what we're seeing with Cinco de Mayo, a lot of places in California, a lot of places in Texas, Chicago is another huge area where people celebrate this, a lot of Mexican Americans, and it's all about the culture. The Mexican culture, whether it's the mariachi bands, whether it's the food and the drinks that we consume. And it's not just the cerveza, mainly the tequilas and a bunch of tequila drinks, whether it's a margarita or their mixed drinks or just drinking straight tequila, which we all know what happens when you do that. Way too much. And obviously it flows up to Canada, where we've embraced it as well with our Mexican culture and in the restaurant and service industry as well. But yeah, the biggest interesting part that I came across was the fact that Mexico in general does not celebrate it as much as we do in the United States and Canada.
Now, I have no research on this, and I don't even think I'm going to put it on the Rationing next podcast. But
you're still going to throw out the volleyball.
Well, but don't you think Canada and the States have it wrong? Like, we find that we have to find things to celebrate. We have to find things that are long weekends. We
need a reason to drink.
Mexicans, they probably don't celebrate this because they have siestas every day. It doesn't. In Europe, they get like 5 weeks of vacation. They don't need all these long weekends. Like,
yes,
it's
get
crazy.
it. I understand what you're saying. We don't need a reason to drink, but we make up reasons to drink because we need these little mini holidays to celebrate something. How many days of the week are always celebrated by something? It's waffle day, it's taco day, it's burger day, it's beer day, it's wine day, it's tequila. We've always got these stupid little celebrations that we do every single day. Pick a day, it's going to be celebrating something. However, it was
not here to not celebrate, but I'm just
it is the Mexican Americans that do celebrate. These are the people that are in the streets with their guitars, dancing in the streets, celebrating Cinco de Mayo because of this war that did happen back in the day. So we've evolved it. Mexico doesn't celebrate it. Their Independence Day is actually September 16th. And that is a huge day in Mexico where the whole country goes batshit crazy and celebrates with all of their tequila.
And you're saying Cinco de Mayo was because they beat Francophones.
That's correct.
Can you speak Spanish in a French accent?
Oh, can I speak Spanish at all? Listen, I'm going through my Spanish lessons right now. I'm at 395 straight days on Duolingo doing these classes, and it's great. And it's only like 15 minutes a day, which isn't a lot, but I have progressed to a point where I can almost understand when I'm watching a movie and I can pick out phrases and understand what they're saying. Like, oh my God, I know what he just said. And give me a second. So I'll pause it and I'll try and piece it together in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. So I'm worried about when the next time I go to Mexico and I've got one of these lovely Mexicans coming up to me and speaking in Spanish. And then I'm like, hey, hold on a second. Let me just get that last part there before you move on. Can you give me a second? Yeah. Okay, good. And then add more tequila to my world that day. Man, it's going to be interesting to say the least.
We'll get by, my friend.
We always do, buddy. We always do. So that is the history of Cinco de Mayo. And we are now moving on to the code, where we're talking sports. And PJ, I'm going to just drop this right on top of your lap, and I'm going to let you talk about this because it was in the news coming up here this last week. It's the whole thing with Roberto Alomar, with Major League Baseball, with the Toronto Blue Jays, with the Hall of Fame, and the sexual abuse or misconduct that the allegations that have come to light. And then piggyback on top of that with Jake Virtanen and the Vancouver Canucks and similar allegations that have now come to light with him. So please, PJ, take it away, starting with Roberto Alomar.
Yeah, so just why I put these notes down, Clay, is just well, the seriousness of them, and we're talking about Roberto Alomar, like won a World Series with a team that never again has won a World Series, was a huge key instrumental piece in that. Hall of Fame player, was now an MLB consultant. They did an investigation and decided to fire him for sexual misconduct.
Okay.
Right. And so we don't really know the details. And, often people will say, well, people are out for money. Roberto Alomar is a famous and rich figure, which is, there's no credence to that, by the way. Like, it's especially in this day and age. And so I wanted to talk about this day and age and what that looks like. Man, you're caught when you are investigated and your phone is opened up or whatnot, and you've done these things. There's no recourse for you. There might be some lawyers that can do some saving of you, but in general, you're done.
With the internet the way that it is today, whether it's text messages or messages over any kind of social media, you cannot hide anything on the web. Even if you think you delete it or get rid of it, these people, in the FBI or the lawyers or the private investigators or some 18-year-old hacker in somebody's basement, they can find anything.
Right.
So if something
when
had
you're
happened,
high profile, this kind of stuff happens. And Roberto Alomar has kind of just said, well, I'll speak to this when I can speak to this, but he's been fired from his job. And so anyway, I was talking about money. This woman is not going to further this case. She's not going to, at this point, and I don't know how long she has until that kind of runs out, but has decided not to press charges.
Okay.
So it's not about money at this point. Jake Virtanen, there's no details on Jake Virtanen, but again, high profile, young. Jake Virtanen's 23, 24 years old. And so, he has been put on leave by the Vancouver Canucks. And that is all the information that not much of a sleuth. I literally Google this stuff. I don't have any insider information
You
on
didn't
this.
go deep into that one. You didn't play
No, I
Sherlock
didn't talk
Holmes
to
and
Benning and
gotcha.
try to figure out this. But what my point is man, this is happening a lot more. And I think that there was a really negative light on the woman that used to that made accusations like this. And now with technology and just the way these things come out, like rarely is the guy innocent.
Very rare.
Like it's very rare. And so I just hope it gives more strength to more people to come out and say more things about this. And I never would want anyone to make, I mean, it's just as bad of a crime to make up this stuff,
Absolutely.
kind of thing. But well, I don't know if just as bad is the right wording that I want to use, but it's terrible. You can ruin someone's life. So it's pretty bad.
Yep.
But anyway, I find it disappointing that this kind of stuff happens with these powerful people in powerful positions.
And it's, you know what, and yeah, with powerful people, 100%. We saw this with the Me Too movement and with Hollywood, where that all began, the directors and the people of power putting these young actresses into places of situations where obviously no woman anywhere should ever be put in. And it's not just men in power that are worth millions and billions of dollars. This shit happens way too much all over the planet to women everywhere. And it's one of those things that we need to be better. The male species needs to be better. Stop being a douchebag and just be better. I don't know what else to say to that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting in the past month that Roberto Alomar, Jake Virtanen are names that come up, and I don't know if they're guilty or not, right? But it certainly seems like there's just it just continues to happen, so, which is disappointing.
100%. I completely agree. Okay, so we're not going to go too much more into that. We'll let the courts take care of that. But we did feel as though that we wanted to talk about it because it is part of the code and it's part of what's going on in our society, and it does need to be talked about. And I feel as though we can dive deeper into it further down the line. Having two daughters myself, yeah, it's something that is always in the back of my head for sure. Okay, let's move on here really quick. We're going to touch on something. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it was such a very cool thing that happened in Baltimore on Wednesday night. John Means, pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles, went the full distance, all 9 innings, faced 27 batters, retired 27 batters. Traditionally, this would be called a perfect game, one of the most difficult things to do in baseball, pitching 9 innings, retiring all 27 batters. However,
right. Different than a no-hitter, right, Clay? Perfect game, different than a no-hitter.
No, because a no-hitter is okay. Hold on. The difference, what had happened here, and the reason why this is not a no-hitter for John Means, because in the 3rd inning, John Means struck out his batter, but the pitch was wild. The catcher missed it. It went to the backstop, which allowed the runner to run to first base. He made it safely to first base, beating the throw from the catcher, which takes away the perfect game because now there's a runner on base. He did not hit the ball, so the no-hitter is intact. However, the perfect game is now tainted by the pass ball and have a runner on base. A perfect game is no runners on base, no hits at all. Okay? He did the no hit, 27 batters, 27 outs, but sadly, a player made it to first base. So
But
The no-hitter
he pitched
threw
a
nines.
no-hitter?
He pitched a no-hitter.
Right. Which is awesome.
Amazing. Such a cool thing. And it was the first individual no-hitter for the Orioles since Jim Palmer did it in 1969. So it's been a while. Good stuff. Okay, now we're going to move on. We want to talk about the NFL draft one more time. And in this episode, we did some more research, so we won't have to deal with the reckoning next week. NFL draft, Canadian players taken in the draft. And the reason why we wanted to talk about this, because we've got a local talent out of Sherwood Park, Chuba Hubbard, gentleman out of Sherwood Park who played for the Oklahoma State Sooners. My NCAA knowledge is not that good. So that was Sooners with a question mark. Either way, he went 4th round, 126th overall to the Panthers, which is an amazing feat. And we're super excited to watch Chuba and see him progress through his professional career. While I was looking at that, there was 3 other Canadians that went. We had Jevon Holland out of Coquitlam, BC, went in the 2nd round, 36th overall to the Dolphins. Benjamin St. Just out of Montreal, Quebec, went in the 3rd round, 74th overall. WFT. Do you know what that is? Oh, Washington football team. Look at the big brain on Brett.
Mm-hmm.
And also in the 3rd round, 77th overall, Josh Palmer from Brampton, Ontario, went to the Chargers. So 4 provinces represented in the NFL draft: British Columbia, Quebec, Ontario, and Alberta. Very cool to see some Canadian content going to the NFL.
Yeah, really cool. Chuba was setting records. Like I think he's the big name of the Canadians, even though there were some people drafted earlier than him. It's because of his position. Running back is a tough position.
Absolutely.
With lots of turnover and not a lot of longevity. So a lot of kids can run.
Yep. And as far as I understand, the Panthers do have a solid running back in their system right now. So Chuba won't get a lot of touches in his first year unless he blows their socks off. However, he will be learning from the best, and we should see some pretty amazing things coming up here in the NFL. Awesome. Now we're going to move on quickly before we jump into the NHL. We're going to talk some hockey with the younger variety. We talked about Connor Bedard a couple of weeks ago. The U18 World Championships just finished. Canada defeated Russia for the gold medal 5-2. And this is being played down in Texas. So they had all of these international teams come down to Texas in a little bubble, played a great tournament, some awesome hockey. Canada basically ran over all of their opponents throughout the round robin and then right into the final here. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because these players will not be draft eligible until 2022, or in Connor's year, 2023. So he's 15 years old. During the round robin, 6 games played, 6 goals, 6 assists for 12 points. He scored another goal. And if you actually get to see this clip, his backhand top shelf is amazing. It's a phenomenal shot. The kid is going to be something special growing up. He was just short of Connor McDavid's 15-year-old U18 scoring title. So that was close. Shane Wright, the player that just finished right behind with 11 points, is going to be the first overall pick in next year's 2022 draft. Shane Wright scored a goal and an assist in the gold medal game today. So 2 names that you should keep listening to if you're Canadians going up in the next 2 drafts coming up. Okay, PJ. Oh, go ahead, my friend.
Where do they make up the, like, we always kill it at the under 18, like destroy teams.
Yes.
And then, so where do the countries make it up when you go into the junior hockey and then the NHL? Like
when we go to the under 21s, like the World Junior Championships, right? And it gets a little tighter. It very interesting to look at. Yeah, a lot tighter. Especially this tournament here was the first time that they didn't have to wait for their junior club to be eliminated from the playoffs because there was no playoffs in the CHL this year. So every single player eligible to be in this U18 tournament went there. So you got the best Canadians going. Usually they aren't this dominant. The way that they were scoring goals was crazy. They were running over teams. But usually those top players.
I watched a bit of it, and it's always weird to watch when a team is so much better than the other team.
You can see it, right?
It's a bit embarrassing, right? Like, and I'm not taking anything away from Connor Bedard or Shane Wright or anything like that. Hey, go play hockey. Okay, I'm going to go play hockey. I'm going to do the best I can. Done. But it's just a bit weird, right?
For sure. And I guess it's one of those situations too. I know that the KHL season ended. Their championship was last week, and some of the players would maybe be playing there, but they're not playing at the same level as a lot of these junior players are, right? Like,
you got Yager at 49 and a couple 17-year-old players.
Yeah, right. Looking up at this old guy. And speaking of Yager, he says that he wants to come back for another year. I'm playing at 50, he says. That's phenomenal. Like, that guy's got some staying power for sure. Good stuff. Yeah, cool thing. So wait for those two guys to come up, and we'll be watching them at the World Juniors next winter for sure. Okay, Tom Wilson. We're going to talk about this because Tom Wilson is a player for the Washington Capitals. He is an agitator. He's a shithead, but he's also a very skilled player. So it's not like he's just a guy that goes out there and does stupid shit or hurts people on purpose or gets suspended many times or gets fined many times. This is also someone that puts a puck in the net and produces, right? There was an altercation between the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers a few nights ago. They're on top of the net in Washington's crease. There's a kerfuffle. Wilson didn't like what one of the players was doing, grabbed him and was pushing him down into the ice at one point. Then Tammy Panarin, one of the superstars for the Rangers, who is literally my size, decided that he was going to jump on the back of a grizzly bear. And the grizzly bear took him and slammed him on the ice and rammed his head into the ice. After all said and done, it goes to the Department of Player Safety, and they decide that a $5,000 fine is enough to give Tom Wilson. And I know, listening to sports radio and reading the news and on Twitter and all over the place, there is an actual split right down the middle whether Tom Wilson should have been suspended for life, a game, 5 games, or not at all. And it's actually, I don't believe I can remember time where it's been split as much as it is right down the middle with everybody. So I know you're taking, I want you to jump on top of that soapbox, and I want you to tell me what you think there, PJ.
Well, where I want to start is where the confusion really lies is the consistency, or really lack of consistency, of what the Department of Player Safety is trying to guide this league by, and to for them to shirk that responsibility, or for anyone to say it's not their responsibility. Well, what the hell are they supposed to do? So basically what I would think, what I'm disappointed by is that Tom Wilson probably deserved no suspension or a $5,000 fine, which he got for his little rabbit punch, sucker punch of Buchnevich, who made a little bit of a kicking motion towards the goalie. There was a scrum. These things happen. You usually don't even see them. They're in the scrum. They're underneath, and Tom Wilson gave him a little bit of a punch, and that's probably all he deserved for that. The after effect of the scrum afterwards, where Tom Wilson then stood up, everyone kind of went a bit crazy. Panarin was trying to pull him off of some other guys, not even Buchnevich, but some other guys, and kind of said, "Hey, Tom, stop!" And then Tom went like absolute ape shit. Like
How'd that go
grabbed his.
again? How did he do that? Now, for people on the podcast, PJ's tapping lightly in the
Oh,
air.
sorry, is Panarin Russian? Tom. I'm sorry, my Russian accent always deteriorates into Jamaican and then like something else. It's ridiculous. So
it's amazing.
Anyway, Panarin, whether he, I swear Panarin could have just like hacked him over across the head, and it would have been the same reaction. Tom would have turned around, looked at Panarin, grabbed his hair, and then he slammed his face, head, shoulder, whatever everyone's really onto what the point of contact was. Yeah. But Panarin got thrown around like a rag doll and could have got seriously injured, and may have got seriously injured. I don't know if it's all an act or whatever, that the Rangers are not bringing him back. Anyway, the fact of the matter is Tom Wilson lost his marbles and slammed a player without a helmet towards the ice, and for some reason, still unbeknown to me, other than like the mechanics of rules, they didn't penalize, they didn't look at that play as anything but just extracurricular roughing.
Right.
And so when you start endangering people and their livelihood and their career, and also you act like an absolute like raid, like I don't know if he just did a roid cycle before he did that, and so he had some like there's no integrity or respect there. And then everyone will go, okay, well, you PJ obviously don't like tough guy hockey, you're a bit soft, we get it. Dudes, I played tough guy hockey. I got my ass handed to me. You don't get this face without taking a few punches. Like, I get what that is, but what the direction of the Department of Player Safety is really confusing. Like, do they want this out of the game, or do they not, or they're okay with it? It's obvious they're not protecting stars. Right.
Oh, that's now we've seen this for the last few years with McDavid. The protection of stars is not happening at all, and we're literally watching this firsthand. Their inconsistency with their suspensions and with their fines and what they're handing out has been an absolute joke, And I don't care who was running the Department of Player Safety, whether it's Joe Peros right now, or if it was Pronger previously, or if it doesn't matter who it was, or the guy from Toronto. Help me out.
Burke? Oh no, Shanahan.
Right. The rules that they have set up, the guidelines, it's almost like they're moving the goalposts, right? It's like, okay, this hit today is going to be this. They want to get the bad hits out. They want to get the hitting from behind out. Yet they're not doing anything about it, right? These are the dangerous hits. These are the ones that are going to injure players for careers. They're not doing anything about it. Classic situation. Tom Wilson is a repeat offender. He has been in front of the Department of Player Safety face to face numerous times. This guy has a serious problem. You can't just have a quick talking to him and fine him $5,000, which is literally tiddlywinks, and expect him to change. We don't hate tough guy hockey. We embrace it. The game Edmonton against Montreal the other day was one of the best games I've seen in a very long time. It was hard hitting. It was aggressive. There was feeling. There was pain. There was hurt. There was two teams that wanted to win so badly. That was playoff hockey at its best. It was great to watch. But what we saw with Tom Wilson was an absolute joke. Now, okay, one step further. We're going to move on with this. The Rangers obviously upset with this because they're saying Panarin's now hurt for the rest of the season. The Rangers are no longer making the playoffs because they didn't gain enough points because they weren't a good enough team. So Panarin's out for the rest of the season. social media for the New York Rangers sent out this statement. The New York Rangers are extremely disappointed that the Capitals forward Tom Wilson was not suspended for his horrifying act of violence last night at Madison Square Garden. Wilson is a repeat offender with a long history of these type of acts, and we find it shocking that the NHL and their Department of Player Safety failed to take appropriate action and suspend him indefinitely. Wilson, dangerous and reckless actions caused an injury to Artemi Panarin that will prevent him from playing again this season. We view this as a dereliction of duty by the NHL head of player safety, George Parros, and we believe he is unfit to continue his current role. Now, this is a very wordy piece that not some social media geek is just going to put up there, or an intern that's working for the New York Rangers is just going to post. This was scripted by somebody up top and put out intentionally. After this was put out, the NHL came down hefty on the New York Rangers, fined them $250,000 for this comment.
Which they knew.
Oh, they knew it was coming. It was like, okay, we'll take out the pocketbook and we're going to pay whatever happens. Right?
For sure. And they might put out another statement that who knows. But
okay, and then the day after this happened, the GM, Jeff Gorton, was fired and President John Davidson was fired. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of action going on with the Rangers. And I'm going to continue on, but I want your quick take on that comment, the fine, and then the firing of the GM and the president.
Yeah, well, I mean, the comment was fine, and I think if you're going to get fined $250,000, I think it could have been even more fiery than that. 100%. But I don't think you call for anyone, like, listen, George Parros is not going to get fired because of this, or like calling out an individual and saying that they should be fired. I think it's a bit silly.
It's name calling. You're being that bully on the internet that we're going to talk about later.
The Gordon Davidson piece, I don't know. And well, none of the reporters really do. They, the Rangers say, well, this was planned before this, and this is just coincidental timing, right? Kind of
I've read that too.
Okay, fair enough. Not a lot to look into that, except that it's weird and you guys are weird. But I wanted to talk about, because this section is called the code, I want to talk about the next game.
Okay, this is where we're going next. Exactly. Perfect. Okay. So the next game happens, and this is a back-to-back game. Washington, New York Rangers, 2 days after the initial issue with Tom Wilson. At the drop of the puck between the Rangers and the Capitals, all six forwards, both right wingers, both centers, both left wingers, as soon as the puck is dropped, the gloves are off, and they're instantly in a mini line brawl. Defensemen don't get involved. They're kind of just doing their thing, sliding gloves and sticks away. So we get ourselves a classic 1980s line brawl right off the drop of a puck. Why they all needed to fight, I have no idea, because really the issue was with Tom Wilson that wasn't on the ice. A couple minutes later, Tom Wilson gets his first shift, gets the puck, and gets jumped. Fight ensues. Tom Wilson is the toughest guy in the league. There's no denying that. He's a strong dude, right? Knows how to fight. A lot of teams are scared of him. He does his thing, goes to the box, so be it. There were 6 fights in this game, one of the longer games this season to be played. This is called the code because of one reason only, and this just happens to be a great piece. PJ, take it away.
Well, I listen to a couple of guys that I really respect. So I respect all of these talking heads that go on. They are allowed their opinions or whatever, but I really agree with a lot. A couple of guys. So Ferraro and Gregor. Yep. So Ray Ferraro, an ex-player, Jason Gregor, an excellent Edmonton sports host, and they're awesome. But they both said, well, there is no code. There is no, the players act on feeling. They kind of go, okay, this is my duty. This is what I should do. But I think we're just talking semantics here. I think it's a code, right? Why would 6 guys fight if there's no code? I just don't understand, because if there wasn't a code, as a guy that's a bit of a tough guy in the Rangers, I know they don't have a lot, but I go and I throttle their stars. I go and I wouldn't probably choose Ovechkin because he's 230 pounds.
And also can throw him. We've seen that.
Yeah. So I would go after Backstrom, or I'd go after Yoshi. I mean, Oshie would have been a bad choice in that game because his father had just died, and he went and scored a hat trick, which is an awesome, like, beyond that, what an awesome story TJ Oshie is, and what he scored a hat trick after his dad's death.
Correct.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a great side note for such a shitty game and a shitty outcome. And the way
I got emotional about it. It was unbelievable.
And, yeah, Oshie, that was pretty very cool.
But anyway, code or no code, my point is that if Tom Wilson's going to be not classy, not understand that him roid raging or whatever raging he did is unacceptable, no matter what George Peros brought down on him, then you have to throttle their stars. I don't think there should have been any fights. So, but that might have been against the code, Clay.
What I want to talk about the code right now, and I want to make this explanation for a lot of people. And I know that we've actually got some feedback on this. We have a lot of listeners that love the first half. They're going to listen to the hood 40 something. They're going to listen to the hospitality gene. But then when we get to the code, they turn it off, which is totally fair. This part may not be for you because it is very sports heavy, talking about hockey. The code itself, if you're still listening, my take on the code, playing any sports, but we're going to talk about hockey right now. You're in this battle, and this is an aggressive game. This is a fast game. This can be a very violent game at times. And you can take liberties on a player if they're in a bad situation. What the code is playing your heart out, but keeping in mind the safety of your opponent. Whether it be their back is turned, whether it be you got into a fight and he's laying on his back and you give him an extra shot in the face. There's certain situations which the code entails. And the main concept is keeping in mind the safety of your opponent during combat. When feelings are high, when aggression is high, when you're in the middle of a war, and I'm saying quote unquote war, and I know people aren't dying. I know it's not a real war. It's the proverbial war. Did I use that word right? Do we have to go to the reckoning? Proverbial?
I felt like I was going to be killed every single game I played.
So that to me is the code. When somebody takes another player's safety and throws it out the window, and there's intent to injure, or they take a player in a place of weakness. And the reason why I want to bring this up as well is because I listened to Jason Strudwick talk on the radio too, ex-NHL player who's been through the grind of an NHL season, who's a very strong man, who's been in many fights. Jason Strudwick would never throw a punch to a player that's on the ground. Jason Strudwick would never hit a player from behind to intentionally injure somebody. This person has respect for his opponent. Does he hate his opponent? Yes. Does he play as hard as he can to beat his opponent? Absolutely. However, he has respect for the player's safety, and he would never do anything to harm intentionally. That is the code in a nutshell.
Yes. Yeah. In a nutshell, I mean, I think that there's lots of things to talk about because when the players start policing themselves, I mean, we saw that for about 4 or 5 years, and I'm not going to try to quote a time, but fairly recently where, man, any big hit would be responded to by a fight. And it was a nightmare. And it was a part of a code that didn't make any sense.
No, that's the bullshit code. You know what? Hits are part of the game. If it's a clean hit, play on. What are you doing? There's no need fighting in that situation. If it's a dirty hit, I understand enforcing that and policing that. Yes. But if it's a clean hit, pick up your panties and move on. Seriously. That's my opinion.
Well, guess what? It's our podcast, so there you go.
And you're listening to it. Okay, so anything else you want to add on to this really quick before we move on from the Wilson Capitals Rangers debacle?
No, other than I'm a fan of Tom Wilson. Like, I think he's just a great hockey player.
Yeah.
And I think I'm disappointed that he wasn't punished because Marchand did this stuff. He spit in people's faces. He hit people from behind. He slew people at high speeds. And he may do that again, but he hasn't for a while now. And he's one of the best hockey players in the league. And so I just think that without punishment and without trying to control just such a blatantly vicious attack on another player, you're sending the wrong message, and Tom Wilson's going to continue to do what he does.
Yep.
And for a little bit longer until you do punish him. And so I'm disappointed by that, because I really like watching Marchand now. Like I always did. Again, I'm a big fan of good hockey players. So
absolutely. And he's still an agitator. He's still a rat. However, he's really moved away from those antics. And I believe that was the season that they went to the finals against Vancouver when he was top tier asshole. Right. And then
he's cost his team.
Oh,
right.
Not during that run, but in that era. Yeah. Yeah. On many occasions.
Same with Kadri, right? Hell of a hockey player.
Yep.
Cost Toronto a couple runs.
You bet he did.
By taking himself out of the lineup.
You bet he did. Absolutely. Okay. Before we keep going into the NHL and doing the playoff race and then finishing off, of course, this amazing podcast that our millions and millions of listeners are tuning into, I want to talk about the keyboard warriors. This is one of my biggest pet peeves on the internet to date. And it happens everywhere. It happens to a lot of influencers on Instagram, and it happens to a lot of celebrities when they post something. The keyboard warrior is the tough guy behind the keyboard, the person that's sitting at home that feels as though they can say whatever they want at any time because they have the anonymity of the internet and not having to reply to anybody, but they can just spout off and say what they want at any time. This particular issue I'm having right now is with sports fans out there and NHL fans of other teams, fans that are seeing players get hurt on other teams, rival teams, and then spouting off on Twitter about this and saying how good that is and they deserve that, or spouting off in pure ignorance, not knowing stats, not knowing backed information, and not doing any research, and just saying what they want, or going after a certain fan because they're a female. And I'm seeing this a lot on the Twitter recently. Female hockey fans getting run over by douchebag keyboard warriors because they think that they're superior for some odd reason. You guys need to take a break from the internet. You guys need to take a break from social media, and you guys need to go and find yourself a hobby, because as of right now, all you're doing is corrupting something that can be completely amazing. Fans getting together on Twitter, sending great chirps back to back, fans getting together on Twitter, congratulating each other, celebrating wins, celebrating the fact that McDavid is going to get to 100 points in 56 games. You don't need to be the asshole. You don't need to be the ass clown, and you don't need to be the left shoe of this potentially amazing medium. So why don't you guys take the playoffs off, stay away from your computer, and let the real fans enjoy what's going to be happening coming down the stretch here. That's my take.
Yeah. Great take, Clay. I mean, I can't help but read some social media and get frustrated. I know friends that take breaks from social media, and they're not the assholes. They're just like, I gotta take a break from the assholes.
It's a mental health break, right? Because there's so much bullshit that is spewed on there, so much negativity that doesn't need to be there.
I'm always amazed by the assholes that have tons of followers that actually make a bit of a difference in, whatever you want to call it, algorithms or influence or whatever that is. And it's just it's really weird that would happen, other than maybe a dark comedian, or something like that. But I don't see that. But I also argue with you, Clay, a little bit on this. I go, hey, listen, it's a free social media, it's a free internet, and if someone wants to be a douchebag, then that's just the way it is. I mean, that's what the forum is for you to express your opinions,
100%,
whether they're valid or not. And I'm not validating people that insult women just because they're women. I'm not validating that, but I'm just saying that, hey, listen, you can't police it in a way of, hey, what I don't like to see is going to be censored.
Oh, 100% agree. And that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just asking for, a little bit of, I don't even know how to put it. Like, just stop being a dick.
I'm so opposite. It's so funny because I'll look at a post and it's a bit controversial, and I'll just be like, oh, I want to heart it because I think I think I agree with it mostly.
Okay, but there's controversial, which is one thing.
But I don't want to be like liking things that, like, I have some friends that I know are against that. Oh man, I can't even like things, never mind comment on them.
That is the funniest thing in the world.
Like, it's so funny. Like, and I just think that this gives, this whole medium gives an open book look into your life, even though I don't even know. I had a really good piece of advice from a friend, and I said, I don't know, man. Like, I'm on Instagram, which is fairly personal. Like, you get to control what you say and what you post and who sees it, kind of thing. Even though I know it's the interweb, so I know that that's probably not the case. But anyway, my point is, I go, I don't know if I like this, then do I have to like this? And he's like, man, stop it.
Yeah.
Just like everything. If you're just worried about it, just like everything.
If you're worrying too much about things like that, then all of a sudden you're in your own head. And now we need to have a serious talk about this.
Well, I'm not really in my own head. I mean, I feel you with your statement are in your own head, but I mean, I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying.
I was just saying first. All right, that's it. We're done. We're moving on because we're going to talk about bigger and better things. We're going to talk about the fact that the Oilers have clinched a playoff spot. They are 1 point away from clinching home ice advantage in the first round. And now we're going to move on to seeing how the rest of the league is doing. All right. And we're starting off in the East Division.
Do it.
Right.
Talk to me. Talk to me, Goose.
Talk to me, Goose. Okay. East Division, we have the 4 teams are already set. So now we're playing for home ice advantage. The Penguins have the slim lead, 75 points with 1 game left. Washington.
Aren't the Penguins just so sneaky like Tom Brady? Like, even when he was with the Patriots, like, oh, he started.
Everybody writes him off, and then he keeps winning.
Write him off, and then they're on top of the division. Sidney Crosby secretly just
he's had one hell of a back half of the season. Like, if you look at his stats, they're like old school Sidney Crosby.
He's my fave.
He always has been. I know that you have a secret love affair with that guy.
It's not secret. Very public.
Oh, you're right. Because everybody knows. I thought you loved Ovi though. Like, now I'm gonna have to text him and say, "Hey, listen, I think PJ's cheating on
Who's
me."
this? Who do you think I love?
Ovechkin.
Oh yeah, I love Ovechkin.
See? Okay. Anyway, the Capitals 73 points. They're 2 points behind, and they've got 3 games in hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Boston 71 points, 2 points behind Washington with 3 games in hand. And the Islanders, with the last playoff spot there, 68 points, 3 points behind, with 2 games in hand. So that one's going to be super tight, and that one's going right down to the wire as we speak. Pittsburgh, their last game is against Buffalo. Washington plays Philadelphia twice, Boston once. Boston plays the Rangers, the depleted Rangers, because they're now upset with everything. And then the Islanders once and Washington once. And then the Islanders' last 2 games are against the Devils and Boston.
Let's move on from the East Division. It's all kind of, I don't know who's going to win. Unless you have like a bet you want to make with me. These are the 4 teams, obviously. They've clinched in.
Washington's going to take that division. I have no doubts about that at all. No, that one's booked for me for sure.
Well, I think this, sadly enough, Tom Wilson's idiocy has brought them more together if a team should be brought more together right now. So, plus they're really good.
They are really good. Okay, moving on to the Central Division. We've got 3 teams that are punched tickets. Carolina currently leading, and also currently leading the whole league with 80 points, 2 games in hand, followed by Tampa Bay, 75 points, 3 games in hand. Florida, 75 points, 2 games in hand. Then the fight for the last playoff spot is Nashville Predators, 2 games in hand. Dallas Stars, 56 points, 4 points behind, and they've got 3 games to finish off the season. Nashville's last 2 games are against Carolina. Dallas's last 3 games, Tampa Bay, and then a back-to-back against Chicago. 4 points. That's going to be tough. Obviously, Carolina is the best in the league right now. Nashville has to win in order to secure that spot.
Yeah, but Nashville doesn't have to win and secures the spot too, right?
You're so right. Yeah.
So
it's called math.
Yeah, I think the math says Nashville.
If Dallas loses once, it's over. Dallas does have to secure a minimum 4 points. I don't know what the tiebreaker is, but they have to win a minimum of 4 points out of their next 3 games.
It's interesting to think that the configuration shouldn't make a difference, but Nashville doesn't seem as scary anymore. Hey, like they seem scary for the last 8 years, let's call it.
Well, because they were defensively strong. The defensemen that they had on, they had 6 deep defensemen that were better than half of the NHL's defensemen. They just had that factory that was producing defensemen nonstop. And of course, then they had a goaltender that would stop everything. They had no offense. They just grinded out wins.
Rene's still there, right?
He is.
But Saros is taking the majority of the games?
Rene's a free agent next year.
Anyway.
Off-season
I don't see Nashville being the only thing that Dallas has going for them, other than they're still in a race. So don't get me wrong. Is that? Did you see that video about Sagan?
Same type of video we saw about McDavid when he came back from his surgery. However, Sagan's social media people nailed it. That was a hell of a video. Like that gave me goosebumps all over the place. And then he scored in the game back.
And then scored in the next game.
No, see, that's like you get that trade deadline.
Showed the stitches in the knee there.
That was gross. 2 surgeries on that knee.
The things those guys go through and how good they are.
I was watching when he stepped on the ice the first time after his surgery, and just how ginger he was, right? And you could just see, man, like the pain must be just.
He couldn't walk,
and he's skating. It was crazy. Okay, we're going to move on to the West Division. 3 tickets punched here. We've got the Las Vegas Golden Knights, 76 points with 4 games left. The Colorado Avalanche, 72 points with 5 games left. Minnesota Wild, 71 points with 4 games left. And then the fight for the last playoff spot, St. Louis Blues, 5 games left, 56 points. LA Kings, 5 games left, 48 points. You got to think that St. Louis is just going to close this out. They need a total of 3 points in the next 5 games in order to lock up that spot. I don't think there's much
Told you
discussion
last
there.
week. I'll tell you this week again. Old man strength. The Blues have this, and it's not like this bold prediction that I'm making. Like mathematically, the LA Kings are in it.
I'm surprised they've left this long.
Again, individual note on say Kopitar, 1,000th point.
That's right. Good call.
Really cool. And so I saw a thing on Twitter. I don't know if it's 8 countries now but they have like countries that have 1,000 points, and they have Canada up there at like, I don't even know what. It's like 55 players or something like that. It's ridiculous. Slovakia on Seiko Kopitar won. And it's really cool. It's
good
so
for him.
cool.
Yeah,
like
good
how
for him,
hard. Man. And also 3 cups, I think.
What a winner. Was pretty strong there for a while too.
Yeah, what a winner.
Okay, let's move on to our division. North Division here, we obviously know Toronto in first, Edmonton locked up. So those are the 2 teams that have their positions locked. Toronto currently has 74 points, 3 games in hand. Edmonton has 66 points, 4 games in hand.
Winnipeg's locked too.
Winnipeg is locked. Correct. Thank you. And they have 4 games in hand. Montreal, 3 games in hand, 57 points. Obviously, we know that Vancouver and Calgary are not catching Montreal. They're going to lock their position in real quick. It's only going to be placement now between the bottom 3 teams. Edmonton needs 1 point out of their next 4 games in order to lock in second place. The fight between 3rd and 4th is going to get real interesting because that's going to determine who we face in the first round. At the beginning, I remember talking to you about this a few episodes ago, saying that I wanted to face Winnipeg because I felt as though that we're a better matchup. They have a lot more skill, depth. However, we've got a lot more speed, and they like to go gunning. So it's going to be a quick hockey, back to back. If they're going to try and go goal for goal, right, then Edmonton has their number. Montreal has the clutch grab system going. They found a way.
Caulfield for president, right?
Oh, good Lord. 2 overtime winners. Like
he scored tonight too, I think.
Yeah, his first 5-on-5 goal in the NHL. He's got 3 goals in 3 games. Kid's good, man. He shoots that puck hard.
The first game I saw him, it's on a lesser level. McLeod on Edmonton. As soon as you know they have the speed. So I watched Cole Caulfield. I hadn't watched him before. I just watched him with Montreal. The way he moved, like he's fast.
You knew that he could keep up, and he's in.
Yeah. As soon as they can keep up, if their brains are good enough and their hands are good enough, they're staying.
They're saying the same thing about Holloway with Edmonton. If he didn't break his thumb, they're saying his speed and his intelligence, he would have been playing right away with this team too.
As you bring up Benson from Bakersfield, it just doesn't have the NHL speed.
He doesn't have the fleetest of feet, right? He's got a hell of his skill is through the roof. He'll score goals, but can he do it at the NHL level? That's going to be the big question coming next year.
He can replace Jujar anytime on the penalty kill for me.
Well, McLeod has played a lot of time on the penalty kill, and they're giving him a lot of ice time. I think that kid's locked in now.
Anyway, Montreal, I just, man, playoffs are coming. So
playoffs
cool.
are coming.
But Montreal's locked in there, right?
Montreal is going to win. Like Calgary is out after 1 more point from Montreal, and Vancouver's out 3 more points from Montreal. So you're basically talking about a sweep on that aspect right there. So nothing too much there to talk about. Connor McDavid had 3 more points tonight in the loss. So that brings him up to 96 points. 96 points, 4 games left, 4 points to go. The century mark is basically there. The guy's averaged.
I want to talk about this for a second.
Yes,
I want to interrupt you because it's like, as an Edmonton fan, as a Connor McDavid fan, like this made up number of 100. I get it. It's 100. I get it. It's 100.
Right.
Right. 100's pretty cool number, right?
Great number.
What the hell are we doing? Like goal, like who cares if he hits 100 or not?
Because it's fun. We're cheering for something that's super cool.
Ugh,
If he hits
can't
99,
get behind this man. Like because I'm a math guy and I'm just like, what is? Hold on, I'm gonna figure this out right now. I'm gonna
150
figure it out.
points.
I don't care what the dead air. 100.
Okay, while he does
divided by
this, I
56.
think it's just a whole lot of fun.
You know what? If Connor can reach 1.785 points per game, it's gonna be so cool. Like, stop it. Like,
ladies and gentlemen, you can at PJ on Twitter. That's at 17POOJ.
like what's the like I just don't understand the enamoration of the reckoning is coming. But people enamored by 100, like I get it's 3 digits, I get it's 100, but it's 1.785 points per game, which is amazing in itself. Like the like getting 100 is incredible, getting 96 is amazing, getting 104 is amazing. Like I know that they have to, but I'm not going to get behind this number just because the media loves this number.
That's totally okay. And you don't have to. This is called your opinion. You do you, Peach.
Well, I am doing me, and I'm just saying that it's stupid.
Okay, you're stupid. And the rest of us Oiler fans are going to enjoy the shit out of cheering for 100 fucking points in 56 games because I think it's damn cool.
No, whatever Connor's doing is cool. You don't have to put 100 around it.
The guy he's averaging 3 points per game over the last 10 games. One game he didn't, and he got 0 points in that game.
Yeah.
He's had 4 points or 3 points over the last 10 games, which is a ridiculous run. Seriously, the guy is a magician. And if we could just sit back for a second and not be Oilers fans and just be hockey fans and say, PJ, we're watching something right now that we haven't seen since the likes of the Lemieux and the Gretzkys and players to that effect back in the 80s and the 90s. What he's doing, and even Austin Matthews, let's bring him into the conversation really quick.
Oh man, is he amazing?
His goal scoring is phenomenal. 40 goals now he's at in 48 games. 50 games.
49, I think. He's played 49 games.
Okay, right. They're at 53.
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, somebody hasn't been at that scoring rate since Pavel Bure did it 20 years ago.
Well, and the thing about goal scoring, I'm always more amazed by that, not because Connor's or Gretzky's or what, but well, Gretzky's a bad example because he scored goals like a maniac. But my point is that like if you look at like Matthews didn't score a goal for like 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. Like I think it's 4 or something like that this season.
Oh, don't worry. The Toronto fans let us know because when he scored in the first 5 games, they said, oh, great. He's going to get 9 million goals this season. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Okay.
But I just, I'm just really excited. There's some really good, like, hockey talent. There's McDavid, there's Draisaitl, there's McKinnon, there's Matthews. It's go time.
This is one of those situations where people really need to just enjoy what we're watching right now, because this is once in a lifetime with a lot of these players. These are phenomenal production going on.
One of my buddies, Shane Smith, he and believe me, I'm still working on this, but we were talking about music, and I said, wow, I don't even remember what band I brought up. It might have been Nickelback. I don't even know, which is hilarious because after I say this, but so I'm like, but for the example, I hate Nickelback. He's like, man, you gotta stop drinking the haterade, man. You gotta stop doing that. And I said, well, yeah, but and like we had to, and obviously we probably had some drinks and some drinks going on there. Shane and I like to indulge. My point is that it really stuck with me, like, and it went beyond music, and it went beyond anything that like I can dislike a player, don't get me wrong. But the haterade, like I can't accept that player, or I can't fathom that person does this, or hey, listen, they shouldn't be in the spot there, especially when you're talking about younger players. Like it just it now is, it affects me.
Yep.
And I think about it and I go, man, when I hear people being so hateful, what you're saying, the keyboard warriors, and I'm just like, why are you drinking so much haterade? Like these people,
and it's like an epidemic right now, and it really is. And especially if we look through our Oilers Twitter feed, the amount of people that think that our management team and our coach should be fired because they're not playing Bouchard, or because they're not playing Jones on the top line, or because they're not bringing up certain players. Do you guys understand that Edmonton is now number 2 in the division and is going on a ridiculous run that we haven't seen in decades? They've got more points. If they win one more game, they've got more points than they did 2 years ago after 82 games. This is a good team. They're playing hard, and the coach knows what he's doing. The GM knows what he's doing. These aren't a bunch of imbeciles that they've brought in to run this NHL franchise.
They're not the imbeciles that ran us for 25 years.
We've already seen what imbeciles are. Exactly. Koskinen.
That still have an office in.
Hey, we should trade 3 picks for a player that'll never play a game in the NHL again. However, his kid brother is doing one hell of a job in Buffalo. Have you seen his stats?
No, who's his kid brother?
God, I forget his first name.
Mika Koskinen?
Oh, not Koskinen. The Oil King captain that we traded at the draft for 3 picks.
Reinhardt?
Thank you. Okay.
Anyway, my point is, I've got no more haterade in me.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, PJ. That's nice to hear.
I mean, the closest I get to it is the Low McTavish era, which is a 25-year era, in my opinion, even though they might not have had the positions.
You mean Chiarelli's not on that list? Because he's got to be damn close.
Oh, God. The Chiarelli piece is bigger than that. Like Nicholson.
Man, there's some
Low and McTavish
blunders. Like, and well, I guess because McTavish and Low were
we gave him complete autonomy.
Sign Koskinen for 4 point some odd million and then fire him the next day.
Oh, we didn't know.
No,
what?
Good Lord.
Oh Lord.
Okay. That's it for the code. We're now going to move on. PJ is going to talk about our picks from last week, our parlay, and then we're going to finish this little dreamy episode off right at the fresh time of 1 o'clock in the morning.
So if you're betting along with us, so last week we went Tampa Bay, Carolina, Edmonton, New York Rangers. We went 2-2 in those picks. So individually, if you bet with us, you'd be 14-10, which sounds incredible. But again, you wouldn't bet these games individually. But if you did, you would have lost $245 last week on $100 per game. And so again, totally reasonable. We're down 1 unit. Parlays. So Clay and I did a secret thing, and then we apologize, and it's fine.
It's fine.
Whatever.
It's fine.
So we every parlay that we actually bet, this is real money now. We bet $5 per parlay. We're 1-6. We lost our parlay because Tampa Bay lost to Detroit. I watched that whole game.
How was that game to watch?
It was unbelievably disappointing and set up my whole Saturday as a disappointment.
Oh no.
But anyway, so then we were down to 750, but then I called Clay. I said, "Hey Clay, let's parlay the rest of the games that we have. We're locked in. We lost our first game. Any better knows the chase parlay is such a mistake,
It's
but
such
we did
a mistake.
So now we're 1-7 in parlays, and we're still up in parlays, $2.50.
Hey,
Winning.
Love it. Excellent. Excellent news. You know why? Because now we're going into the parlay for tomorrow night's hockey night in Canada. PJ, I want to pick games that are important games. I want to pick games that are playoff implications. Right? Implications. I want to say implicated. I whispered have. You must have missed that. Are you writing that down for the reckoning?
Just dying right now.
You jerk. Okay, Hurricanes against the Predators.
Hurricanes against the Predators. No meaning game. We should go Preds.
Yeah, I don't hate that pick. They're fighting for their lives, right?
Right.
And they'll have some good juice on them too. Look at me talking all like I know what I'm saying.
Let's have some juicy.
Let's go with Blues Golden Knights. Golden Knights are fighting for the President's Trophy. Blues are fighting for a playoff spot.
Let's see, where is that game?
The Kings are just, or the Knights are just so good though. Man, so is Carolina, and we just bet against them. So,
well, let's go with the Golden Knights. I think that will get pretty good non-juice on that.
Yeah.
Just because St. Louis is fighting, but Vegas is at home, and
yeah,
I just think Vegas at home is just ridiculous.
Do they have fans in Vegas right now?
I have no idea.
Of course, we're going Oilers at home versus the Nucks.
Yep.
So our fourth and final game will be. Oh, you know the series we did? Did we talk about the West at all? Oh yeah, we did. The teams I'm looking at, I'm like, I don't remember talking about them. That's because they're eliminated.
Let's take Colorado against LA.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Avalanche to crush the Kings' hopes and dreams of making the playoffs.
Do it.
You have to. So the only underdog we're taking is the Preds, which I accept. There's our four. Nashville Predators, Las Vegas Golden Knights, Colorado Avalanche, and your Edmonton Oilers. Nice pick, brother. Good. Let's finish this podcast off with something special. We have heard a lot of great things from the podcast last week, and PJ is going to tell you about a couple special people that gave us some great feedback.
Well, this is a person that has a lot of history with us. Well, both of these people do, but there's a reason why we call her Mama. Right? And so Mama Claire gave me just a shout out that she's listening to it and that it warms her cockles. That's not a word she used, but that we are back together again, and we're not that we were ever apart, but Mama Claire is just brings a cozy blanket to this whole thing, and I love it.
Mama Claire was one of those people at Joey's when PJ and I would belly up to the bar before we'd go to work, and we'd entertain all of the bartenders and waitresses. And have
non-alcoholic Caesars,
always non-alcoholic Bernsteins.
Margaritas.
Non-alcoholic Bernstein is that just
salad.
And red peppers. Never forget the red peppers.
And take that ashtray away from us, please.
Mama Claire, love you.
And then I don't know. It's a challenge, but it was awesome. I think our good friend Brandy might listen to us. We'll see.
Ah, yes, Miss Brandy.
Yeah,
potentially at times.
Yeah, we'll see.
Good friend of the show. Good friend of the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And good Stonehouse girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the day. Long time ago. That's it. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for listening to this extremely long podcast. We love the fact that you stayed through every single minute of it. If you want to yell at PJ for all of his stupid shit that he said, Twitter at 17Pooj, 17POOJ. My name is Clay Weeb, Captain Obvious. That's obvious with a 5. The show Twitter is at PJ and Clay. Send those messages. Send this off to your friends. Hit subscribe. Hit follow. Rate us. And let us know how we're doing. Good or bad. We want it all.
I said this last podcast. I'll say it again. My son would say, smash that like button.
Smash it, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves one heck of a weekend. We will talk to you next Thursday/Friday. Good night. Beautiful. Well done, sir. Nice job.
We got her done.
That was, it is 1 o'clock in the morning and I do have to work tomorrow. So there's no way I'm producing this tonight. But because I'm such that old man and I get up at 6 in the morning, I'll get myself a coffee and I'll start producing first thing in the morning so that our good friend Alana can have a podcast to listen to on her drive.
Well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday until a foreseeable future because of the lockdowns. I do check-ins for our virtual program.
Yeah.
So I'm up at 4:30 in the morning every Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, so let's talk about adjusting our recording date moving forward. I'm going to move my personal podcast from Wednesday recording to Sunday recording because right now it's just too much. Work all day, come home, record, produce, get up, work all day. And so I'm already going to move that because Sundays are right now my day off. So it's a perfect day to sit down and do an afternoon podcast, produce it and put it up. So this one here, and I don't want you staying up this late and having to get up in 3.5 hours because that's what Don takes.
Oh, it's not a big deal, but
yeah.
But anyway,
still,
it's not permanent, right? For me, it's not permanent for that 4:30 piece.
Okay.
It's just until we're back into normal operations, which is, weeks away maybe, but it's not a big deal. Anyway, I don't mind doing it on Friday nights either. It's not as though I have anywhere to go.
Yeah, this is literally my world for the last year and for the foreseeable future.
Right. So if you want to move it to Friday nights, I have no problem with that as well for a while, but I'm not asking for that either.
No.
Right.
Reason being is because I know they're going to be putting me on brunch for, oh shit, we're in lockdown. Well, the next 3 weeks.
Exactly. It's so funny. You're like, well, I have this important fake thing.
When I'm doing DoorDash, we can just do the podcast right from the restaurant.
Listen, man, I'm all up for whatever you think will work.
We'll figure it out. We're pretty smart guys.
Yeah.
At times, not all the time. At times, so we got it. Okay, brother. Nice
Good
job.
stuff. I'm not sure how that's going to turn out, but it sounded good in my ears.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't worry, I'll produce a shit out of it. All right, love you, man. Have a good night.
Love you too.